The level of discussion on this side, just keep it at a lower level, please. It is quite distracting. I call David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make a quick call on this part two of the bill we're discussing tonight. Part two, as others have said, is amending a number of different acts and making those acts be able to coordinate in a much more consistent way so that our infrastructure can move forward and be developed much more effectively. It amends the Telecommunications Act 2001, the Electricity Act 1992, the Gas Act of 1992 and the Local Government Act. And it's the idea, as I said, is to try and provide some consistency around reasonable access to the corridors, the allocation of costs, when utility operators are required to move assets. It also will be addressing the time notification and response that those operators will need to provide in order to make the operations that they want to carry out are much more smooth and much more coordinated. I mean, I think we've all been in the situation, and I know particularly, definitely in the Auckland area, where roads have been dug up and have been inadequately put back together again by various utility operators, for example. And I think what this enables us to do is to ensure that we are well notified about disruptions, that work goes ahead in full coordination and with many of the other operators as well, and it ensures that we have a minimum amount of disruption, particularly in the Auckland environment, where there is so much pressure on roads and so much pressure on the ability of services as Auckland is expanding. I mean, Auckland is expanding, as I said before, at the rate of, one Wellington City every 8 years. I mean, it's an extraordinarily quick and fast expansion. And so this bill, I think, will address many of the need to be effective, the need to be efficient as that expansion and as that goes on. I mean, there has been another example, Mr. Chair, in which I think this part speaks to is, I mean, just the fact that contractors that were laying pipes, for example, in Auckland City, when they went out and they had to connect up with pipes from Waitakere City, actually found they had different dimensions in the pipes. This may now be helped sorted out, of course, by the fact that Waitakere City and Auckland City are going to be one super city, and I hope certainly that some of those things will be addressed. But this bill, Mr. Chair, will go, I think, a long way to try and restore some of those efficiencies that we need. It's worth mentioning, as others had, that this work actually started in 2007, so it has been quite a long time in coming, more than 3 years. And of course, that was under a Labor government who recognised the need for this piece of legislation and began working on it. Given the fact that this government has made so much of the need for improved and more efficient and more effective infrastructure, it is kind of surprising that here we are 2 years later into this government's almost 2 years that we're in fact are only now getting to the committee stage of the legislation. As I said, the work did begin under the Labor government. Utility operators, and I say again, the electricity, communications, telecommunications, sewage, drains and gas, say that there's been an inconsistent application of reasonable conditions when seeking to exercise their right access to roads in particular, as that's where obviously most of our services and tend to run. On the local authorities' side, they are concerned, and I'm sure from pressure from residents and from ratepayers, that there's been poor quality of reinstatement of roads by utility operators. There's also concern about the inconsistencies between statutes. So therefore, some operators are actually able to afford some advantages over others. this legislation, in particular this part, will go a long way in terms of ensuring that all of those operators, all of those utility operators are operating under a standard format.